Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman. I hope everyone out there is having a lovely day. As we get things kicked off here, we have a great show planned for you. In the second part of the program, we have computer and technology news, and that is a segment dedicated to everything news, tech, all that kind of thing related. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have some very interesting stories, including, if you missed it, last night they announced and they being SpaceX, announced the billionaire who purchased a trip around the moon. And he said that, he bought out the whole dang ship and he's going to bring artists to the moon. So I don't know the timeline on that, but it's very, very different, and looking forward to talk about that and many others. But here in the first part of the program, we of course have a very special guest joining us, and that will be that will be the CEO of the company, Gamer World News Entertainment, and they run a website with lots of different content, including tricks, tips, interviews, video game news, all that kind of thing. It's all about eSports right now, and we're really looking forward to today's segment. Now, before we get started, a couple of things, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything from a link to our guest website to, a link to our guest website, any articles, videos, anything that we show here on the program today, as well as our live video feed, which can also be found over at twitch.tv/computeramerica. And of course, the social media contest, which is brought to you by Logitech. Now, before I stumble over myself anymore, why don't we go ahead, bring on our guest, and get talking. Now, joining us today, again, Gamer World News Entertainment. There we go. And joining us is Miss Gayle Dickie. She is the CEO and executive producer for the company. And Gayle, thank you so much for coming on the program. And how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. And so obviously a good place to start would be the beginning. I read some of the bios there on the website, and it looks like this was really a passion project and a vision for you for quite a while now. And why don't you go ahead and give us some background on on the website, on the company, and then a bit of yourself. Have you always been in the tech space?
Well, I haven't always been in the tech space, but I started in the entertainment business, working for studios and whatnot. And as I really wasn't sure where I was going with my career, because I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, I did a lot of time, working at the studio in various positions. And then that kind of changed when I went to work for Orion Pictures, and I got into TV syndication, and I became a TV syndicator, which means I sold TV shows all around the country, market by market. So you become a really good pitch person because you're doing 25 pitches a week and dealing with, all the various networks and stuff. So About maybe 5 years ago, after selling, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of TV shows for other people, I really wanted to do it more for myself. And I went about trying to do a digital network, but the technology really wasn't there 5 years ago. And then about 3.5, 4 years ago, I was reading an article about in the New Yorker magazine about a young girl whose father wired all their computers together and didn't watch TV, which was fascinating to me. And she played strategy games with the entire family. And this girl went on to be the #1 StarCraft 2 player in the world. Her name is Scarlett. And her real name is Sasha Hostin. And I was just fascinated with it. And it went into all of her background and, gossip about her and how could she be so good because she's a girl. And wow, where does this video game news live? Where's the, the pieces on the lifestyle and just the sports and the different games? And I really couldn't find anything. And I just went on and Googled eSports news and eSports world news, and I actually bought those URLs and convinced I produced, TV, sold TV, movies, etc. And so I went back and convinced my film investors to give me the money they were going to give me for a film. Let's do something probably a little bit more rewarding than that. So I went about, putting together eSports World News, later to be known as Gamer World News, because I thought that in the investment community and even in the tech community, when you said eSports, people always got a question mark on their forehead, like, why do they call it eSports? I don't understand. So in an effort not to keep explaining it, I thought, well, wait a minute. Esports is only really now, as we know it, only 1% of the market. So it's really about the gaming community. And so therefore I got Gamer World News, which I thought was pretty insane that I could buy that 3 years ago, but I did. So it's Gamer World News Entertainment. And, I really wanted to come about, I'm kind of a news junkie anyway, and I really wanted to come at it from a different level. I didn't want your daddy's ESPN. Right. I didn't want green screens. I didn't want two guys sitting at a desk. And, I got lucky. Time is everything. We hooked up with Avid, who has it's called X Inc. 2.0, and it's a motion tracking software that's, you'll go on our site, gamerworldnews.com. You can see how it flows and what it looks like. I had a great guy help me design it. I had a firm that had done a lot of the big movies for Lionsgate help me kind of create this look and feel and texture of it. And so we went about putting something really unique together because I wanted short, snackable content, potato chip style, meaning, you eat one, you want another one, you want another one. And so that's why we got this result of this premium looking, very cool gamer style news that's just, I didn't want it to be staticky looking, no offense to the other sites that are out there, but they're very static. Right. I find it boring. You read an article and you got to scroll through it. And, there's plenty of news sites out there, but, I wouldn't spend a lot of time. I crawl them, I read them all the time, but I want great video news. So we put a big call out all across the U.S. for gamers. I wanted, gamers that knew about each and every, game out there, not just the esports, but even the casual games. So 2,200 people auditioned. We got it down to, I don't know, maybe 80 and then 40 and then 20. And then I was really going to hire 4 and I hired 7, but they are 7 of the greatest people. 2 girls, 5 guys. And I can't say enough good about them. And they all have their own expertise and their own passion, including the girls who, like Zelda and Mario, and they don't play the heavier fighter games, which is, well known that girls don't play those as much, right. But there's certainly professional teams in CSGO and Street Fighter and girls that play it all the time. So that's kind of what I did. I put it together. We started last December and, we had a lot of fun. I can tell you, I really believe in putting a great group of people together. And I did that. I was fortunate enough to get these amazing people who spend, 3 or 4 days prepping. And it's a big technological thing that we go through to set the cameras properly, not to mention the music that's awesome. I have music from a library that has 18,000 cuts of music around the world, and that's flown in live. So when you're watching it, we do that live as it comes up. I mean, we have a lot of fun with some of the music that's in the background if you listen every once in a while. But I knew that gamers really cared about their games and their very specific audience. So I wanted something for everyone. A WoW player doesn't care, or a WoW player or a League of Legends player really doesn't care about Fortnite or Street Fighter when Halo's coming out, Halo 6. I mean, so we found that people come on the site, they watch what they're most interested in, they click around for a minimum of 5 minutes, which is unheard of. And then, on our platforms like Apple TV and Roku and Amazon Fire and Android specifically, we get a lot of interest from Brazil and Peru and the Netherlands and Europe. So, it's really kind of grown into its own. I have, some big plans we'll talk about for next year, but that was really kind of the start of what I could never have imagined was going to take off like it did. I was so consumed with the look and the feel and the texture and getting it right and being authentic.
Yeah, obviously you put together something here that's very, very unique. Although I will say that, you're saying other sites, how they feel stagnant. You definitely have created a very dynamic, and I could see, the videos changing daily as you, kind of, go about this. But I will say that it seems like your biggest competitor, for better or worse, in a lot of ways is YouTube and, other sites that maybe are not strictly gaming news, but, whereas you obviously are, but you're competing against a lot of different mediums. We have online magazines. We have YouTube. There used to be, like a gaming. There used to be like a gaming TV show that.
Yeah, G4.
G4. There you go. We used to watch it when I came home every day from school,
yeah.
And you're taking all these on, and I guess now is a good time to kind of ask you, what did you see that all these others are trying to do? What did you see that said I can do this differently, and here's why? Audience are going to want this. Like, what do you do differently than all the other mediums?
Yeah, great question. I mean, listen, YouTube is YouTube, and it's fantastic. It's, kind of something for everybody. Mm-hmm. We do have a YouTube channel, Gamer World News, which we service regularly. And we do have a Twitch TV, Gamer World News, and Facebook. I really think, I always look at it like when I was selling TV shows, and it was probably around the late 80s, I believe, and early 90s when, you had ABC, NBC, and CBS, and along came this new network called Fox. And people laughed it off and said, what do you need another network for? We already have 3 great networks. But, Fox came along and they did something really different. And it took a while to catch on. I mean, it wasn't an overnight success, but they had Married with Children. They had Parker Lewis Can't Lose. And who would have thought you'd put animation on The Simpsons at night and people would watch cartoons at night? It was unheard of. So in a way, I'm kind of in that model, in that I think that what we do offer is a high quality premium video concentrated in the full-on global gamer area. Again, I mentioned the technology, and we keep every story to 1 to 2 minutes. It's not, obviously you're not looking in your mom's basement. I'm very adamant about the type of content we use. I'm very aware of, reporting on some video games that might be really tough to report on. One comes to mind that we did a report on. We had to edit it pretty well, which was called Gorn, which when I saw it, I about flew out of the control room because I didn't realize the video was like so graphic. But, we managed to cut it up and make it look good. But, we're also catering to a younger audience. So I've auditioned about 200 kids between the ages of 8 and 15 to do a Minecraft report, a Roblox report. I know Roblox is just huge with kids. So we're going to bring up a younger audience. And I think that's something kind of really unique. And, I really think that I'm just offering something different that nobody's really, they could try to copy us. I guess I'd be flattered. But we do something unique things like Girls of the Game. And, we're passionate about including girl gamers from all over the world and doing stories about girls and gaming, et cetera, and supporting that growth. So, we're going to do a lot more. The reason it's called Gamer World News Entertainment is because we're going to do original entertainment specifically in that gamer space. So there'll be a lot more features and series coming later next year. I'm doing something, it's no secret, and we're talking about it now, called Finding America's Gamer World News Girl. And that will be kind of a competition to find a girl between the ages of 15 and maybe 24, or 16 and 24, who's a true girl of the game, with brains and personality and style and the ability to give back, and really passionate about what they do. And then they will be that girl that will travel out throughout the U.S. and be the younger face of Gamer World News. Moving forward, we're going to syndicate that to finding China's Gamer World News Girl, finding Germany, Canada, etc.
This seems to be, and so, sorry to kind of cut in here, but through our conversations with other companies, women in tech and obviously women in gaming now, to what we're talking about, females in technology in general have been very underrepresented. They are gamers, they are in the tech industry, they are programmers, they do a lot of kind of what everyone else does. But when you picture a programmer, you think of a mid-20s, early 30s, kind of white male. That's just kind of what
Shame on you. I don't think that way at all.
well, and
white male, but okay.
well, no, I guess that's not. I guess I should say that is the stereotype. I guess I should say. And obviously, like I said, there are women who are filling these roles, and there's a large push from larger organizations to get more interest in this kind of thing. So I guess my question to you, of course, has to be, you're very adamant about getting, kind of women into the gaming space. Sure. That has not been easy in the past. We have seen, gamers in general, there's been a lot of reporting done that they can be misogynistic. They can be, very wary of who they view as kind of quote unquote outsiders, even if they have no real basis in fact for kind of feeling that way. So, I guess why do you feel that it's such a need to, kind of let women especially know that, hey, it's okay to be a gamer because you're already a gamer?
Well, listen, I think that it's no different than any other industry as we move forward. I was a TV syndicator. The joke was I was the only girl west of the Mississippi for a long time. So, I am just here to encourage girls from every aspect of it. Just that, girls play games. And to be honest, it's at about 45% of the market. It's an undervalued demographic, especially the younger girls. You've got Carly Kloss doing a coding camp. You've got, Google putting significant money into, promoting, girls in gaming, and Facebook's, trying to do the same. I think it's important that girls know they don't have to, be a professional player. They can be in the background. They can be in marketing. They can be in, graphic design. I recently found a girl who I believe it just has the first eSports scholarship. She's playing Overwatch for Missouri Valley College. I had a long conversation with her. I'm probably going to fly her out to do a in studio interview, but she's going to get her degree in graphic design, and she loves games. She's been playing pretty much all her young life, and I think it's just important that girls that are gamers and the gaming industry has to recognize that females are just a part of this vertical in business as they are in law or education or politics or anywhere else. It's just, I think now we're just so sensitive to all this that it's like girls can play on their own team. I think they can also play in a co-ed atmosphere. I don't think it matters because it's not a physicality. It's a skill-based sport, as I've, said, oftentimes on TV. But, I think it's important to encourage that. I think it's my job as a news organization to encourage women to get in every aspect of gaming because it is the biggest sports entertainment vertical of the world. It's at 180 billion in a few years. And certainly in the U.S., they're reported to at least be close to $2.5 billion in revenue. So it's just a lot of opportunity for girls, and I think it should be really shouldn't matter whether you're a girl or a guy. It's just that there is a lot of let's say, bullying going on, and it's like like
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see that improve.
I've certainly seen it myself. Of course, working here on Computer America, we report on stories such as that. But just being a gamer and just going into a lobby with 11 other people, and one of them happens to be a girl, and then suddenly the conversation is dominated by the fact that, hey, a person has a different gender. That's crazy.
Right.
I would really,
Kind of silly.
I would really like those conversations to go away, and we just focus on the fact that, hey, we're all playing the same game. That seems much more interesting to me. But I'm glad that you're doing the work that you're doing, and then on top of that, you seem to also be trying to connect, I think, a lot of ecosystems. I was just reading, or I was just browsing an article earlier before the show that they're talking to like the CEO of YouTube or something like that, and there's been a lot of talk of, let's say, Fortnite. Fortnite has taken over the gaming industry here in the United States. It's incredible how popular it is, but then when you bring it up to someone who knows numbers, he's like, well, that's not the case. In the U.S., Fortnite is certainly a thing, but if you look at the Asian market, if you look at the European market, if you look at other markets around the world, that's not what happens in the U.S. is not what happens in the rest of the world. You seem to want to bring these markets together and to try to give a clearer picture of gaming in general. How do you kind of propose to do that? It's not easy for, let's say, to get an American audience interested in the Chinese professional gaming scene.
Right. I just think it's a question of just reporting on the global market. I mean, if you look at Fortnite with 2 billion in in-game purchases by the end of the year, that excludes China. So China's getting ready to, include Fortnite, and it will launch there. I'm sure they're working that out as we speak. But I just think it's important to look at it from just the global perspective. So what's happening, you're right, what's happening in China isn't what's happening here. Germany, the top 10, Italy, Spain, Russia, the UK, et cetera, South Korea, Japan. Japan's a completely different market. I just think it's interesting from our perspective. And again, as a news organization, to report on that, the global ecosystem and what's going on, because you see, I just recently met with one of the presidents of the Emirates, and we met in Chicago to talk about doing Gamer World News all across the Middle East, North Africa region. And he was saying that their market is so young. It's, really in the 12 to 29 area. And it's a $4 billion market. And what they like and what we like are a little bit different, but they're about 5 years behind the U.S. In terms of how they see everything. So I just think, U.S. is a forward-leaning market in some respects. And I think Fortnite's such a pop culture type game. It might not do as well in other countries. But, you look at the bigger games, the League of Legends and, Dota, et cetera. And I think Street Fighter is a great game. It's very different globally. So for me, it's just bringing all that information into one place and kind of deciding what the trends are going to be. But U.S. certainly, we really need to look at this business from the outside in. I mean, the U.S. is big, it's huge, but China leads the way, then U.S., then South Korea and Japan. And so you kind of have to see and balance, at least for us, balance our news accordingly, because there are things that do affect us here in the U.S.
Absolutely. Now, before we go on with this great conversation, kind of speaking in generals, I did want to kind of squeeze in some talk about your website that you did set up, because saying that you want to report on these things is one thing, but then to actually deliver content to the listeners out there, you've put in a lot of effort. So if you would, why don't you go ahead, give us a walkthrough about first going to gamerworldnews.com. What do they find there, and how, and talk about some of the different categories and just how you kind of set it up.
Sure. So we have 13 channels. We have a carousel in the beginning that's kind of the focus. There's an interview there with Ronald Casey, who was the Madden NFL pro player that he kind of used his body as a human shield to keep his buddies from being shot. So there's a story about Ronald on our site, which we featured, and we'll continue to feature that for the next couple of weeks. We have 13 channels now, so we focus on eSports news, so what we think is relevant right there, and it changes a lot. the global market. We report on the mobile market, what's going on in mobile gaming, which I think is just the fastest growing, segment. We do girls of the game, so anything related to girls and gamers we put in there. We do a channel on VR and AR, we've had a couple of really incredible experiences with VR gaming, so we report on that. And then we have a tech channel. We do a report on the teams, the leagues, and the publishers. And then we do gossip, rumors, and reviews. We report on the health aspects and psychological aspects of gaming. And then I have my hosts do their own tips and tricks, and
Right.
we do special interviews. So there's kind of something for everybody. And I think that, the idea is to make it kind of look cool, and you kind of can watch a story and you can go right to the next story if you want. So you just really literally click along and see what interests you. And then we do look for contributors, and I do get things now and again from people. So we do contributors at gamerworldnews.com. So if you have a story that you can put in a 1-minute format and submit it, if we use it, we'll pay you. And we've kind of collected a lot of things right now, and we're just looking at kind of what we want to do for next month. So
Perfect.
That's really kind of the focus regarding, Gamer World News, at least on the website at this point.
Right. Now, one thing that is, very obvious that you are not, maybe kind of featuring, you might have it, I just don't know about it. You distribute this through, all the different set-top boxes, Roku, or not set-top, like Roku, Apple TV, Amazon, Kindle Fire, what have you. Now, all these are video. Some article, or, some gaming news is best conveyed through article. You're talking about these numbers and graphs and statistics, seeing the numbers on paper and hearing them in your ear. They can have a very different effect. I'm not saying, you have to have articles, but you seem to kind of be foregoing that and just, kind of keep in the video format.
Right.
Was that intentional, or did you just say video was great?
No, very much intentional. I think it's a differentiator for us, and I think it's, I just know in our testing and our discovery in terms of what we wanted to do and how we wanted to be portrayed in the market, that video news was much more captivating. And so if you want to go look at a score or statistic, you can just go to the score and find your score. But that's not some place where you spend, any kind of time. You'd spend a few, maybe 30 seconds or so, you click around and you get out. Our site is based on, video news and entertainment and basically getting into your game, finding out what's going on, and moving on to the next. So if you're looking for static news, you can Google whatever stat or graph you want. But we use some of that in B-roll, but we usually use a lot of gameplay for our B-roll, at least right now. And then sometimes we make our own graphs and we talk about what's going on in the market. But for the most part, I think video news is the future. I think video advertising, video ads are the future. I'm just glad to be part of it, and it's where our direction's going. And you'll see us doing more, a little bit some more long form content with interviews coming up with some of the biggest voiceover talents in games. And we just did we just did a video with interview with the head guy up in Canada on sports, and we're doing something with Germany and like I said, the UAE and Dubai coming up. So I just think that's kind of our sweet spot. And again, it does differentiate us from, the Dick Saratos and the eSports observers and that kind of thing. I mean, we may get to a point where we offer a premium insider, which would have a little bit more static content and some more long form interviews, et cetera. But that's all for, on the table for next year.
Right. No, obviously there's a lot of ways that you can take this, and that's I think you've set yourself up very well for you have your core idea, you have a lot of content already, which is something that a lot of news sites kind of struggle with, is just getting the content out there. So
Right.
You can grow in any direction. It's definitely great to see. Speaking of growth, let's go ahead and actually, I'm going to have to ask you, if you're not, it's okay, but would you mind staying over for a couple minutes so we can, kind of continue on here? But I did want to start, we have like a minute left before a break. I did want to start about growth, and let's kind of combine these about esports, and you also follow professional teams. let's talk about the growth of esports. And that's one thing that I think you're trying very hard to do, which is combining audiences. Gaming in general has been a, kind of a strictly Twitch, YouTube, online, kind of friend to friend kind of word of mouth thing. And now we're getting to the point where we have esports on ESPN. We're having traditional, I saw all the interviews that you were doing for Fox, I think, Business. And they were talking about esports. It has hit prime time. What is it about? So talk about blending that and, where's the growth? Is it, going into more traditional markets, or is it just getting to more eyeballs?
To your point, I think it's going to get into some more.
Actually, I apologize, Gayle. The music just started, and I was a little long-winded there. Everyone, the music means we're going to take a break. We are talking to Miss Gayle Dickie. She is the CEO and executive producer for Gamer World News Entertainment. Everyone, if you want to find out more, link at computeramerica.com. We'll be right back. More of the interview, more Computer America, right after this. Stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here, and we are talking to GamerWorldNews.com, and of course, Miss Gayle Dickie, who is the CEO and executive producer for the company. And a lot of great, obviously, conversations so far. And I apologize, right before the break, I introduced a question, which was, where do you see growth in terms of your market, in terms of getting people interested in gaming news, or they're already interested in video games? It's just hearing about the different content that you have. Is it, again, traditional markets, or is it just more people on the internet? I mean, where are you going?
Finally, and moving forward, we can see it's going to start going a little more traditional. I don't think the gamers are really into broadcast cable. I just don't think that's where they live. I'm not opposed to doing a half-hour show. I've been asked to do that in some markets overseas. So we've actually got a pilot of a half-hour right now ready to go. But I think it's mostly about creating a unique identity. And for us, it's going to be about strategically partnering with, right now we're in discussions with some major, very prominent sports figures and entertainment people about partnering in terms of, let's just say, other platforms that would yield a benefit to gamers. I mean, I think, we're at the state now where it's the end of exclusivity. So we don't have to go in one direction. I don't have to just be on, Amazon Fire or just be on Android TV.
Right.
I can be on multiple platforms. So we're talking to everyone from, the big cable type entities who have gone to streaming. So I'm kind of giving that away to, maintaining our own site and then taking an aggregate look at all those audiences. So it's really, combining all the audiences together. I joke sometimes with people and say, if you had a pizza parlor and you had 100 people a night in there watching, Gamer World News, I'd definitely put a monitor in your restaurant. So as long as I can get it everywhere, I think that's the growth potential. And certainly for us, it's on a syndicated basis, in the top countries. Like we're going to be in Greece. We're looking into Latin America. So, the growth is, country by country, not city by city or state by state. I mean, the U.S. is certainly very important to me, but, we're looking at it from a global perspective. And I think that, you're going to see a lot more content gamer related. And by that, I mean, touch points on the gamer world. So I'll do, series about girls, aspiring to be pro gamers or whatever. And I'll do a series about, the voiceover guys who've been making this their job for 25 years. These guys have been voicing League of Legends or, these Street Fighter 5 or Mortal Kombat, et cetera. So, I think the traditional areas will have it, but the demographics for that's a little shaky to me. It's, even for ESPN, they're going to have to work really hard. And by that, I mean, when they show the exhibition, they've got somewhere to go. And I'm not going to touch exhibitions. I think the guys that do it really well, and I would just be the reporting on it. So I'm going to go get a story with a gamer, and pull one of the pro guys out and interview him. But I think that's the growth. I mean, and certainly, from the business perspective, I think sponsorships are the biggest area, no doubt, of growth. So sponsorship, advertising, and then as I've talked about many times on television, I think we're going to see, the Olympic Games growth happen starting in, 2020 to 22 and 24. And then hopefully when it gets to LA in 2028, it'll be a foregone conclusion. But that's where I see the growth.
Yeah, very, very well said. Obviously, there's and one thing I do like is that really the mobile segment. That is the part that I keep coming back to, because when you say that you want to expand to the Latin America countries or or the Asian countries, mobile really is kind of that thing that you do while you wait for the bus. Kind of here in the United States, but elsewhere in the world, that is people's first and only gaming console. And they spend a lot of time on it. They really appreciate what you can do on a mobile phone. So the fact that you are really emphasizing that as well, I definitely enjoy that.
Yeah, no, I think mobile is skyrocketing. I think, the cloud type gaming and gaming on mobile platforms is really going to be something to watch. It's going to be really interesting how the console side of it grows with mobile and how that's competitive and how that all comes together. There's a lot of people a lot smarter than me that are going to figure that one out. So.
No, and absolutely. Now we have, and we're going to wrap this up here shortly, but I will say that we have this question here. Maybe about a year ago, this alone would have earned you money just by mentioning the name blockchain, but blockchain and video games.
Right.
Blockchain as this technology, we've covered it on the show before. It does have very real world implications.
Right.
I've never seen it used effectively in a video game other than just monitoring transactions, just making sure transactions happen as they're supposed to, and they can be audited. Now, blockchain, video games, what are you thinking here?
So I got a lot of thoughts about blockchain. First, I will tell you that we actually have a plan in place for a blockchain database for gamers around the world that we're going to use for a specific purpose. But that's all I can tell you right now.
Okay.
It's an incredible task. I'm happy to come on and talk about it again in a few months. But I think it comes down to a lot of things with blockchain. I'm fascinated by it, first of all. But it's the ability to verify a player and have your account, management intact, and you can own your assets and avatars. So it's going to be interesting how they explore all that. I think it comes down to what's stored in the blockchain and what is private and what's not. So there's talk about, I know Epic Games is looking into this seriously. There's talk about bypassing the app stores and using blockchain, which would, allow for this immediate payment and cut the fees. I think it's like at 30%. Mm-hmm. So I think that works well for gamers and the industry. And that won't surprise me if they cut out the app store. That would be a really great, function of that. But I think it's really about making blockchain, a benefit to a gamer in terms of them owning their own content. I don't mean like IP, but it just feels like it has a way to go because it's such a slow process, to predict, how it's going to work in that ecosystem. But, we just feel that there's a few little places that it looks like it's gonna take off. And forget the cryptocurrency side. I'm just talking about, user management, avatar, creating your content, sharing your content. Can you take your avatar from game to game to game? Will the publishers allow that? I think we're just looking into it pretty deeply at the moment. I have a CTO who's brilliant. His name is Vlad Vasic, if he listens to this, but, he's very passionate about it. And I think, we're going to keep reporting on it. I think I want to interview some people from the Blockchain Game Summit moving forward. But I think Epic is taking a big stand on it and really doing some research well into next year to see how they can accommodate it for higher game audience. So,
I had really not considered that because a lot of the way currently that video games are done, let's say Blizzard World of Warcraft, for instance, you are essentially borrowing your character, your gold, you're putting your time, you're paying for it, but you do not actually own anything. You are simply Blizzard is allowing you for $15 to have your character. I guess a blockchain would then allow you to actually own a part of their game that only you own, and that can be very, very interesting. I had not thought about that, so that actually makes sense. Obviously the technology, even someone who's heard a lot about it, is still learning new things and how it can be implemented. That's great. Gamer World News. Obviously, your website, we've said it a number of times here so far. There's a lot of places that you can go with this. What maybe you mentioned going to a couple of different of the larger conventions. You go to you go get interviews from very important people behind the scenes. Where are you most excited to see this go? Is it about finding America's Gamer Girl? Is it all these interviews? I mean, what makes you excited about this project?
I think really having a go-to source for the news for gamers in an independent way. I'm not owned by a team or a league or a publisher. I have no ties to any of that. I think the exciting thing is, for me, probably as a producer and a creative, is to create these really incredible series and stories and backgrounds about, I want to, do stories on some of the players and kind of make them come to life. I want to do, whether we have a game show in mind that we want to do with an outside producer that I just got connected to. I think it's exciting. It's the original entertainment probably side of it that I love. I love the news. It's fast. It's quick. I have my hands on every single piece of that right now. But I think the exciting thing is growing it and growing to a full, news organization. That would be very exciting too. I always, when I pitch this out to, strategic investors, I always say it kind of resembles that ESPN, CNN for gamers, only from the standpoint of CNN does their own original entertainment and ESPN does the same thing now. But that's where I'd like to go, is to be that original entertainment and gamer news source. And that's really the focus for me, looking forward into 2019 is to make sure we get there.
Very, very well said. And now, if people want to find out more information, you mentioned Facebook, YouTube, of course, your website. Where's the best place that they can go to find out more about what we've talked about here today?
Yeah, so gamerworldnews.com. You can also go to gwne.com. We own that as well. Facebook, we're Gamer World News. YouTube, Gamer World News. Instagram and Twitter, we're at GWNE Now. And we put a lot of stuff out there on Instagram mostly. Twitter a little bit, but mostly as everybody does. We're all on Instagram these days. And then, Android, Apple, Amazon Fire, and Roku. You just search Gamer World News and it comes up. And once you click on it, it's in your menu to stay. So yeah, we like it. People just go on Gamer World News and click around and just check back often. There's always a new story up there in the various channels. And if anybody has an idea for a story or wants to be a contributor, you can just go to contributor at Gamer World News and send me a video. You can be on your iPhone. I mean, everybody's a photographer and a videographer these days. So we're always looking for new stories and people and girls, guys, young, old. I'm always interested in doing news stories, not only in the U.S., but all over the world. So happy to look at anything anybody sends.
Of course. And we'll have a link to it right there at computeramerica.com. Should stay up there for about 2 weeks. And I want to say thank you so much for coming on the program. Everyone, once again, Ms. Gayle Dickie, CEO and executive producer for Gamer World News Entertainment. Gayle, looking forward to speaking to you again. And also, obviously, Craig's kind of yelling in my ear. We're gonna have one of your exclusive interviews is going to be joining us to talk about his experience, at that tragic event. And I'm sorry, Ronald Casey, right? And before I let you go, just wanted to kind of get your feelings on your interview, that you have up on your site.
Sure.
Before we kind of go into our interview, were you struck by kind of his experiences? Because obviously that was a very shocking and different kind of outcome for these gaming events.
Yeah, that was a wild Sunday for me because my phone started ringing off the hook from CBS and ABC and Fox just asking me what I knew. And I happened to know through a family member, Ronald was there. And, I immediately reached out. I was, it's an unfortunate situation. A lot of the gamers will tell you that were there that they were thinking something was going to happen, unfortunately. There isn't a lot of security unless you're going to the Barclays Center or Staples Center here. You didn't think about, going into a restaurant bar and you need security. But, that I will say, it's just my opinion, that particular tragedy would have happened probably even if they had security. That was a vendetta type situation. Everything I know from Ronald it was a pretty intense time. He handled it immensely well. I think when you interview him, you'll get a full story. But I think it's more important to talk with him about what's to be done moving forward and what's happening with all these guys some of the guys have quit playing. Some of them are, really having a time with PTSD because it was like being in a war zone for them. So he's got a really interesting perspective on it. I was really struck by his story and, I'm really interested to see where it goes. I'm trying to help him with this GoFundMe Jacksonville PTSD fund. And I think that it's a story that needs to be told and we shouldn't just forget about it. These things happen and then 2 weeks later, nobody talks about it. I kind of made it my mission to help him and those players to make sure that they get the care and concern that they need. And I'm not going to stop until he does. So I'm really thankful you guys are having him on because I think it's an important thing to do and helping that, not only the Madden community, but the gamer community as a whole.
Right. No, and of course we are looking forward to that interview. And as you said, not to focus on too heavily about what happened that day, but also talk about what happens in the future and where we move on. And hey, I definitely like talking about your future with with your website, with your news, and I'm looking forward to great things. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it very much.
All right. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
You too. Thanks.
And there she goes, everyone. Now, obviously, Gamer World News Entertainment. If you want to find out more, gamerworldnews.com. Link at the show notes. Hey, kind of like a Gamer Tuesday. It was a lot of fun talking to her. Definitely going to hear more, from Gayle and of course from her team in the future. And hey, glad that we could have her on Computer America. Now, and also, I guess I should explicitly mention that yes, Mr. Ronald Casey will be here on Computer America as scheduled next Monday. So mark your calendars. If you want to hear about what happened in Jacksonville, then obviously you want to tune in here for that. Now, let's go ahead, switch gears, shake ourselves loose as we get into computer and technology news. And of course, this is everything having to do with computer technology news. There's a lot of different ways that we can take this, and I think we're going to take it to the moon first. Here we go, computer technology news. Now, so let's go ahead and start with obviously that story. So SpaceX, if you didn't hear it, some people I've heard were calling it kind of like a Willy Wonka moment. If you remember Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, of course, where a very eccentric person, kind of has a unique experience only for a set number of people. Now, this very unique experience is going to be not landing on the moon, so not going to take it that very far, but actually going to fly people around the moon. For the first time in so many years, someone has found a reason to fly around the moon, and they actually have the technology to do it. Now, this is coming to us from The Verge, although obviously this was covered by a lot of outlets, and this one, of course, Ms. Angela Chen, talking about which artists should SpaceX send to the moon? ? Painters, musicians, film directors, fashion designers, and architects are eligible, and I'm sure they are available to fly. That's a lot of different kinds of artists. You can't just send all musicians and expect every musician to come up with a very moving piece. There's a lot of different creative aspects to society out there. You can't just rely on music to be all encompassing. Now, that's where Elon Musk and SpaceX come in with Japanese billionaire Yusaku Maezawa to them, and they're going to send him to the moon with the BFR. That's right. They said that it's the BFR, of course, would be the Big Falcon rocket, which is produced by SpaceX. It's meant to haul cargo up into space. And after they get everything kind of set into place, the BFR is supposed to usher in a new era of actual affordable cargo hauling to space, where up until this point, it's cost something like $10,000 a pound or something like that to get something into space. So everything from water for people living on the International Space Station to experiments to people, it cost a lot of money. Now, they said that the founder of the Japanese online retailer Zozo, Maezawa, is also famed art collector who once paid $110 million for a painting by Jean-Michel Basquiat. I'm sure I butchered that all the heck. But he says that I choose to go to the moon with artists. This is a man who doesn't just say I value art, but is willing to put the resources behind that sentiment. Now, he says that he bought all of the seats on the inaugural flight of the BFR around the moon. They say in 2023, they're going to, and again, if all goes well, in 2023, they're going to fly people around the moon and back over, I think, the course of several days, like 3 or 4 days, and they'll make it back, land back on Earth, and everyone's going to be hopefully happy, healthy, and good to go. He said that I would like to invite 6 to 8 artists from around the world to join me on this mission to the moon. And he said that he would like them to represent many different fields, such as painters, musicians, film directors, fashion designers, architects, and more. If you see this little infographic here, he includes sculptors, dancers, and painters, novelists, anything creative. If you can kind of put a creative bend to this, that's who he's interested in. Now, they said that the Verge staff discussed who should be sent to the moon, and these are obviously, these are people from the Verge who they would send to the moon. Not going to go through every one of their responses, but hey, I thought it was a very, very interesting idea that someone who, and by the way, in the chat room mentioned that, hey, they said he's valued somewhere around $3 billion US, of course, and he paid about, I want to say that he paid a lot of money. It doesn't say how much he paid, but I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 to $10 million for all of these seats at once. And again, he wants to give them away to people who are creative types. Now, how he actually chooses that, he has about 5 years to actually decide who goes with him. But again, hey, the money's up front, everything's set in stone, or should be, and this is pretty exciting. I don't know what that experience is of going to the moon, around the moon, and looking out at Earth. We've seen a lot of the astronauts who come back, who have actually landed on the moon or gone to space, and they are able to kind of look out the window and see the Earth, see, and again, kind of paraphrasing what they've said, but seeing the entirety of human civilization on this tiny object, that you can cover with your thumb, or, it's everything humanity has built up until this point is right there on that little ball. And something about that moment, something about seeing that in person changes your point of view about a lot of things. I guess, I don't know if it's a different perspective that they're gathering, but obviously this billionaire thinks that, hey, that is something worth sharing with people who can convey that to many, many others, hence artists. Very, very cool, very interesting, and yeah, I guess now we play the waiting game. We have to wait until 2023 to see if see if it actually happens. Speaking of the waiting game, let's not wait as we move over to our next story. I think we only have time for one more, and a couple of good ones here. Let's talk about something that I feel like should probably come in most cars, not just Teslas, but SpaceX, Elon Musk, Tesla. Let's go ahead and discuss this one. Engadget, Mariella Moon, talking about Tesla's built-in dashcam feature is coming with Autopilot 9. That's right, Autopilot still getting updates. You do not want to still be stuck with Autopilot 1. You want Autopilot 9. And with this new Autopilot, you now get the idea of a dash camera that is always on, always recording, and always filming. From the dash cam footage that I've seen, obviously you're not going to watch 99.9% of dash cam footage. It's boring. It's people driving down the road. We would not be investing billions of dollars in technology if people liked looking at pavement. But that 0.1% or even 0.01% of footage that you can find out there that clearly implicates a party or shows a legitimate accident or a freak act of nature or what have you, those are the segments that dash cams really shine. It's able to put those things into context. It's not just people seeing the aftermath and having word of mouth, but actually being able to see that. That's where Tesla wants to take everyone. Where if you buy a Tesla that has Autopilot version 9, or you purchase one that has the capability to have it, you will have it will use all the same software. It will use the cameras that are built into the car, and you will have an always-on functioning built-in dash camera. Privacy concerns aside, I think this is a great step forward. I think everyone should have a dash cam, especially if you're a bad driver. I think that you, of all people, should be punished with a dash camera. But they said that Tesla has been using cameras to investigate crashes and other accidents. So it already records to some amount. It already records this video. Now it's about making sure that the feature is user-friendly and that you can, of course, deliver that video to anyone who wants it. Now, Musk said that the built-in dash cam rolling out with version 9 is in beta, and the company will keep on tweaking it so that it can release an improved version with Autopilot 9.1. That's pretty cool. This car, and again, speaking specifically of Tesla, they have cameras built into this thing for a lot of different reasons, including just other autopilot features. But to give access to the driver, that's going to be a huge boost for safety and insurance reasons, and I think it's going to be a great selling point. As I said, not a lot of time, which I definitely appreciate. I really like talking with, with our first hour guest, and hopefully you enjoyed listening to it as well. If you missed any part of today's show, you can of course check us out wherever podcasts are heard, and download today's show in its entirety if you didn't get a chance to listen to us live on Twitch or IRN. Now, tomorrow on the program, let's go ahead and get it straight from the calendar. Tomorrow on the program, we are scheduled to have the one, the only, Mr. Darius Derek Shawnee, who's our resident computer graphics correspondent. And hey, we have a lot to talk about, including the new NVIDIA graphics card, GTR 2080 Ti, which I think was delayed until today or tomorrow. But everyone, Darius Derek Shawnee tomorrow, and more Computer America all week long, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. People in the chat room, people at home, thank you so much for joining us, and hope you do so again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.